I'm Courtney Kubitza, and I'm excited to have you guys here just in time for the holiday and the winter season to talk about applique. And applique in general, the finish really creates a high-end, high-quality look on apparel. It's one that's highly sought after. We've seen it used with embroidery machines for quite some time to give us that premium finish. The challenge with applique in general is that it does still need an embroidery machine to get that premium finish. And it has always tied up some extra time at the embroidery machine and production and getting products processed quickly. So today in this class, we're specifically going to focus on a way to get the applique finish and get the applique look using just a heat press. So we're not going to need the embroidery machine for this, and this is going to focus on ways to use your heat press to do this. There will be two huge benefits to you as a decorator. For those decorators that are do not own embroidery equipment or don't have that capability to offer embroidered applique, this is going to give you an opportunity to compete in this market, still offering a premium finish, still offering a unique result. And for those of you that do offer embroidery, this is going to be a way for you to look at some unique opportunities to expand your applique offerings. One, if you use your heat press for some of these applications, you'll find that you'll be able to produce items much faster and much quicker per piece. So you'll be able to turn jobs a lot faster. We'll also look at some different finishes that you aren't able to get today with applique right now. And so this is going to allow you some ways to do that with just your heat press. So we've got an exciting class to talk about today. We're also going to share some markets that tend to be popular as we walk through the different finishes and different products that you can use to grow your sales with your heat press and applique. So I'm going to head over to the heat press to start talking through some of these designs and the different markets that we'll be reaching. The first market that we're going to look at today is going to be schools. When it comes to embroidery and applique, schools tends to be a very popular market for printing. We often see a lot of it appliqued or embroidered onto hooded sweatshirts, on jackets, and on different items. And so we're going to show a applique product and a word mark that's actually called sim stitch. And so sim stitch you'll see me use a few times throughout the class today in a variety of ways. This way is actually called an any word, any way product. And so what you would do is you would select your text, select your font, and you would get this applique finish. Now the nice thing about this product is it actually has what looks like a laser etched finish that's been put into the twill product. So it looks as if it's sewn, and it's going to give us that high-end sewn effect along with the twill. Now the sim stitch product's not only laser cut and has that laser etching on there to make it look like it's sewn, but that laser cutting will help seal the edges, and that's why it doesn't need to be sewn for it to adhere, for it to be a durable product on the hooded sweatshirt. It also has a permanent adhesive already applied to the back, so I know this product will stick and stay and be completely durable. I am going to place it just on a simple hooded sweatshirt. Applique tends to be a lot nicer feel on a heavier item, so a sweatshirt, a thicker cotton t-shirt, and something like that. Now, sim stitch products actually are a little bit more lightweight than standard applique, so you could even put this on a 100% cotton t-shirt without it weighing it down as much as you would see on standard applique. Now I've loaded the hooded sweatshirt on an 11 by 15 platen here on my Fusion heat press. The reason I chose the 11 by 15 is you'll notice that it gives me a nice flat print surface for the hooded sweatshirt. If you don't have a smaller platen like this that works in your heat press, you could easily use something like a heat printing pillow stuck inside the hooded sweatshirt to help give you an even pressure. I am going to preheat to remove some of the moisture and wrinkles, also double check my pressure and see if it needs to be adjusted. Looks like it's ready to go there. I'll just tighten it up a little to get to the medium pressure I need. I'm going to line up my sim stitch letters here, so just laying out my word mark. Now when you order sim stitch products, if you can order it in a script font like I have here where it's connected, this tends to be the easiest way to do layout because I don't have to individually lay out the letters as you'll see when I do a letters and numbers example on a jersey. I am going to cover this with a cover sheet just to protect the twill and any adhesive from coming up onto the platen, and then sim stitch applies at 350 degrees for 20 seconds and a medium pressure. And so this one-step application is all that I'm going to need for being able to create applique with the heat press. And so I don't need to do any additional steps. Very fast, very easy versus the embroidery machine, and it's still going to create that high quality look that looks as if it's sewn. I've spent a lot of years attending trade shows, and I've watched so many people come into our booth, look at this product, and immediately assume it's embroidered. Even embroiders that have been in the industry for years thinking this is an embroidered product because of the premium look it gets and the laser etch and the sewn design. Now, of course, this is a red hooded sweatshirt, so the coloring will come back as it starts to cool down a little bit from the heat press. We see that often with cotton blanks that are this red shading. But again, sim stitch in any word, any way is going to create a great way for me to decorate for a school with a word mark that's a high-end, very quick, very easy. I'm sure you could easily imagine printing something like this for 24 students and very quickly printing them versus having to load them all in your embroidery machine and sew them out with applique. So very easy way to do that. The next option I'm going to look at is another transfer product on something that's a bit more unique. Now, when we think about embroidering unique items tends to be a bit more difficult. There's different hoops that are needed. It may be too challenging to get to the space that you want to print. And so we're going to look at printing just a simple item like a tote bag with the heat press and some twill products. I'm going to rotate my 11 by 15 to get to the position that I'm looking for this bag. And then I can just load it and thread it on the same way I would do any other application. And so for this, I'm going to just put a unique print down here at the bottom of the bag. Since it's not going to be laundered, I'm not going to worry about going through the process to preheat it. And I'm going to lay out my next transfer letters. These letters, you may notice, look a little bit different from the letters that we just saw on that hooded sweatshirt. These are what we call pre-sewn distress letters. And so the pre-sewn distress letters are actually just this one's a 2 color, so we offer it in a 2 or 1 color, but they come again with a distressed cutting on them. The material's kind of frayed, so it gives you that high-end, trendy, distressed look with a permanent adhesive on the back. Now these letters are loose, so you noticed how I had to do the individual placement. If you're going to be doing multiple letters, I just have 3 here, and I'm kind of using the top of my bag as a guide, but you could certainly use a lettering layout guide or a ruler or something like that to lay them out straight, tape them together with a heat seal tape, and then align them over at your heat press. But this is a really great way to get that premium, distressed, kind of vintage, eroded look that is really popular right now in the apparel industry without having to worry about going too far with the machinery that you're purchasing and investing in. Traditionally, you would need a special type of cutter to cut this type of twill product in addition to the embroidery machine. So these are just heat press only, and you'll notice that the lettering actually has what looks like embroidered thread, actually is embroidered thread throughout. So the letters are actually created to look and simulate the results that would appear to have a complete sewn effect. So it gives you the way it looks like it's sewn, but this way it's just a heat press thing. And so this is a 2-color letter in the pre-sewn distress letters from Stahls. Single color options are available as well, and a tan chino twill. I tend to go towards the 2-color. I think right now black and gray are very popular, so it gives you a lot of opportunities with schools to pair it with a colored blank that matches their school color. And so if their school colors include blue, then I would choose a blue sweatshirt and maybe include the gray and black lettering on it to get that distressed vintage look. I think it looks great on this tote bag, but of course being able to put it on a zip-up hoodie or a sweatshirt just really expands the opportunity on what you're printing. This product does apply at a little bit higher heat at 365 for those 10 seconds, so keep in mind that you want to be careful you're not purchasing any products that are too heat sensitive to place this on there, but creates a great effect and a great look there. One more design I want to look at for schools before I kind of recap schools and look at some other opportunities in markets is a unique full color product. And so when we think about applique, we tend to think what we've seen so far, the Huskies design where it's a single color, maybe a 2-color design like we saw with that pre-sewn distressed, but we never really think about a full color logo. And so this is a great opportunity for schools, and we'll also see this as an opportunity for printing for corporate apparel as well. I'm just going to place this as a left chest logo on the front of this oversized shirt, and we'll talk about some other opportunities with oversized shirts as well to create that full color effect. And so for this, any full color transfer really works. And so I can create full color artwork to be able to print on my item. I'll scoot this over here a little bit. And so for this one, what I've done is I just created in CADWorks Live a full color circle print. So I placed a gradient flower background on the back of it, added the Husky Pride to create that kind of varsity athletic emblem, and then printed it on this PermaTwill product. So this product, again, is just a printed twill that's been created with a permanent adhesive. So all I need to do is heat press it. Now this product, which is called CAD Prints PermaTwill, if you're applying it, certainly needs a cover sheet. This reason it helps to protect the ink that's been used to print the transfer from transferring to the top of your heat press. So I recommend a piece of craft paper for your cover sheet. These tend to be less expensive, so they won't ruin your Teflon sheets. Now for this application, we're looking at 20 seconds, and it can go as low as 300 degrees. So this even creates an additional opportunity for some of those more heat-sensitive blanks. I'm up a little bit high since I'm pressing a lot of different applications here in the class, but you certainly would want it to be around 300 degrees. That way you're not scorching any of those heat-sensitive fabrics that are really popular right now for schools. Here you can see where the ink had sort of transferred onto that cover sheet there, so that's what we're protecting against from the heat press. Now, you would want to be careful. This could possibly transfer over to another shirt, so you want to make sure to either throw this away or cut this section off so that you're not getting that transferred over to your next garment. And that creates that high-end finish, and so it creates kind of like a patch effect. Something looks really cool right now for spirit wear and gives you a unique kind of less chest look on the front of this oversized shirt. So with CAD prints, we're looking at another option like this. It's full color a little bit later, but this gives you a solid twill effect, similar to a patch, something that's full color, and really adds some dimension to the school and spirit wear design. Now, oversized shirts have been incredibly popular for quite some time, so I want to look at another application that was done in a video on Stahls TV. So if you go to stahlstv.com and you search SimStitch, you'll be able to find the video where we did this application. And this actually uses those large SimStitch letters to create a full oversized applique look. So when I talk about printing applique for school, being able to direct embroider applique onto an oversized print like this would be very difficult. And so this is going to allow you to achieve that high-end applique look with just the heat press. And the way she does it in the video is she places this out, lines up her letters, and then slowly tacks them in place with a home iron before transferring it to the heat press and finishing the application. And so that way she can ensure that the lettering on the back completely lines up correctly, and we've paired it with some of the CAD Cut glitter flake just to add a different effect. But another great way to think about taking applique to the next level, so maybe put that full color print on the front of your shirt and then go big on the back here with a large embroidered applique finish using SimStitch letters. So that wraps up some of the stuff with schools. And so when I think about schools, the next transition to move towards is sports, because they tend to go well together. Twill and applique has been widely used for years on sports uniforms because of the high durability, because of the premium results. For a long time, along with CAD Cut heat transfer materials, it was one of the best ways to decorate team uniforms. And so we still see it used because of that tradition. Now, whenever it comes to, of course, costing and time and being able to create team uniforms, using applique can be a challenge. And if you don't have the capabilities to do applique, but you still want to bid on those jobs of maybe schools that have used applique on their jerseys in the past, you need to find a way to do that. And so this product will allow you to do that, still giving them that premium durable print, because PermaTwill has a highly durable washability to it, which is the SimStitch is made out of the PermaTwill product. But you can offer it at a lesser cost because you don't have all of that time tied up in thread and embroidery and all of that as well. So we're going to look at another application on the back of a football jersey to create this print. And I'm going to leave the 11 by 15 in just for this application. So I'll load my football jersey onto the platen here. Give it a little preheat just to get some of the moisture and wrinkles out. And then what I'll be using here is that same SimStitch product that we saw in the Huskies design. in letters and numbers. And so this then creates that high-end twill applique look with the same sewn edges onto the team uniform. Now, if you remembered, I had mentioned briefly that the letters and the numbers can come loose. And so that's what we're looking at here, is we're looking at, looked like it was backwards for a second. Okay, so what we're looking at here is the numbers and letters for this design, and we're spacing them out individually for layout. And so what I can do is I can purchase these in a pack where I can get X amount of one piece, or I can even order them in a kit. So if you're going to be doing a large team school, I'd recommend probably purchasing a kit and then individually laying out each of the letters to get to your team. Now, same thing with the letters that we're using. These are going to have to be individually laid out. And so when I'm doing this process, obviously I have a very short name here in the name of Smith, but if I have a larger name and one that tends to be maybe a lot longer, or I want to guarantee it's straight before I get it to the heat press, you can use a tool. It's called a Stahls layout guide. And before you get to this step, you can actually lay this on your prep table next to your machine, lay out your individual letters. You can lay them in an arch, you could just lay them in a straight design, making sure each letter is spaced, let's say a half of inch in between each letter, so it's properly spaced. And then these lettering layout guides actually come with some mask that you can use to mask the entire design to transfer it over to your item. And so you can use that mask. We resell it as well, called a magic mask material. So you could resell, you could purchase that product to use it as a mask if you run out of it after what comes with your lettering layout guide. Or you could even use that heat seal tape that I had mentioned. So both of those will allow you to make sure it's straight, lined up, and makes pre-cut lettering like this incredibly easy. I'm going to cover this one more time with my cover sheet here and press that for the recommended application. So we'll go back up to those 20 seconds from the beginning that we had for sim stitch. I lost my cover sheet there, so I'll grab another one. That one's actually a little bit stained from the perma-twill. Make sure I didn't slide anything around. If you're ever worried about loose letters sliding around when you put your cover sheet on or when you get to the application, you could certainly use that blue heat seal tape that I mentioned to hold it down at the heat press. All right, a couple more seconds here for this application. Peel back my cover sheet there. And then we have a completed team uniform. So the back of this with a name and number have both been completely printed and personalized. And so that creates, again, just another easy way to add personalization to the back of your team uniform. It's still durable, still high quality, so it's still going to withstand a lot of the beating that we see in different sports. I used a football jersey for this, but I see there being a huge opportunity with this in baseball, because we often see a lot of people doing twills still on baseball uniforms as well. And so keep that in mind as the spring is just around the corner and you'll soon be printing those types of team uniforms as well. All right, I'm going to look at another market and a few other applications here, kind of stepping away from the whole spirit wear and school market. And we're going to look at the corporate world. So embroidery, applique, they tend to go well into the corporate or small business applications. It creates that premium finish, it's high quality, and so for a lot of businesses that are looking for logoed apparel, it gives them a way to look as if they are offering a high-end staff and have a high quality image. And so we're going to look at two applications that fit well into this and still allow you to use your heat press. Now, traditional prints for small businesses or corporate logos are always left chest logos. And so we've created another left chest logo using a CAD print texture twill. So this product looks very similar to the perma twill that we had used for the Husky Pride design on the Spirit Wear shirt, but it actually has a textured finish, which really simulates the look of embroidered threads very well, but gives you the option of offering very high detail and very full color, so it works really well for a lot of different logos. I am going to swap out my 11 by 15 for a 6 by 10 platen so that I can press this application. It's going to be a little bit smaller. And I'm going to print it again on another small item, so something like a zip-up hoodie or a polo shirt. We'll go ahead and just load this on in the threading method. Double check our pressure. It may need dialed back a little bit. Alrighty. Once we have that in place, I'm going to line up my CAD Prints textured twill. And so what you're seeing here is a ton of fine detail and a ton of full color that's really created a unique effect. And this print is really what we're seeing logos do today. And so logos are no longer just one or two colors. They're hard to kind of dumb down into a single or two color version. This one shows what we're seeing in logos. It's 3D, it's dimensional, there's a lot of fine detail. And so to get this in an applique method, it'd be very challenging to do. So usually this would go to a direct embroidery, or you could use a product like this, which is CAD Prints Texture Twill. The benefit of this versus direct embroidery, of course, is time and cost. It's going to take a significantly less amount of time to print this than it would to do this many colors and all of this detail in direct embroidery, and still gives me that high quality look on the garment. I'm putting this on a higher end quarter zip jacket to show that as well. Now this product, remember, applies down at 300 degrees for 20 seconds. I'm up a little bit high for this application. I'm up at 340 right now, which won't damage the transfer in any way, but if I'm down at 300, it's going to make it much better for these heat sensitive items, which is what I have on the heat press here. So to avoid any type of scorch marks, you definitely would want to be able to be down at 300 degrees. And that is one of the nice things about this product, is that it allows me to do this on more heat sensitive items. Corporate apparel in general, we're seeing go towards a lot of the synthetic moisture wicking performance fabric products. And so that in general, embroidering, adding heavy threads, adding heavy applique can really weigh down those types of thin, lightweight garments. And so this product, which applies as low as 300 degrees, will allow me to now put an applique look on these trendier, higher end office garments and avoid scorch marks, avoid heavy weight, all of that at that low temperature. And so this one again just creates a unique effect. And towards the end of the class here, we'll recap all of these, talk about some costing, and show some close-up effects. So you'll get to see this one and the detail and everything. But this creates a really nice print on the jacket. Now you may have noticed I made sure to use my cover sheet simply because the product is printed in a method that will transfer back up to the top of the heat press. So I want to be careful to make sure I'm using that cover sheet so my inks don't transfer over as they did on that cover sheet. Again, using the craft paper, so it's more, much more of a less expensive item. So the next one I want to recap and I want to talk about is going to be a different product. It's actually a CAD cut product, and so it's very different from the ones I've shown so far, but I think it's so important to share when we talk about applique in a no-sew method, because it creates that higher end embroidered applique look using just a vinyl cutter. And so this product is called CAD cut flock, which is actually a thicker raised material with a fuzzy suede-like feel. And so it kind of simulates a embroidered effect onto the item that you're printing. So again, I'm just using a polo shirt for my application here. Preheat it to get some of that moisture and wrinkles out. And then line up my CAD cut product. And anytime I do polo shirts or anything like that, I always am careful to go about 3 to 4 inches over from the center of my shirt and about 5 inches down. Now I am using a ladies polo shirt here, so I want to be careful that I'm not going too far down from the top that it could go too far over to the underarm, because they tend to have a tighter fit on these garments. So I'll tighten that up and bring it in just a hair. And then I'll cover it with a cover sheet just to protect it from any damage. Go ahead and use this sheet here. Careful not to get my sublimation on my heat press. They will make me pay for that. Just kidding. So CAD-Cut Flock actually applies at 320 degrees for 10 seconds. So you could cool this down just a little bit for that print. And then it's a cold peel. So I'm going to let the flock cool down a little bit before I start to peel back the carrier and reveal my print. So again, getting that same raised textured effect. It has a nice soft suede-like kind of fuzzy feel to it, which really just helps you create an image that looks similar to direct embroidery. Now, one of the biggest benefits of an application like this and using flock is really, just like we've seen with all the other applique products, is really cost involved. So for this design, or flock in general, you're looking at about 2 cents a square inch. And so as I start to talk about costing here shortly and the price of these designs, keep in mind that this is going to cost much less overall for a design than you may find with direct embroidery or even applique, especially for something of this size. It's a little bit smaller, which would be difficult to applique. So that's another big benefit of using CAD-Cut Flock to kind of reach new markets. And then our final application, before we start to talk more about pricing, is going to be a product that allows me to, again, offer unique prints and unique effects. This is that same Sim Stitch product that we saw in the open of the class, as well as the numbers, but it's in a sublimated pattern. And so there's different patterns that you can actually get this printed in. There's zebra, there's leopard, tie-dye, polka dot, a bunch of different effects that really lend well to spirit wear. And so we're going to look at how to quickly print the back of a zip-up hoodie using the Sim Stitch product here. And I'm going to swap out my 6x10 and change it for my 11x15 again. I'm going to go ahead and thread on my zip-up sweatshirt. Since I'm putting this on the back of my sweatshirt here, one of the nice things about Sim Stitch, or about the platens, is that I'm allowed to completely thread this on. Now all of the bulk and the zippers and everything have fallen below my platen, so I don't have to worry about print through. This jacket is from Sanmar and actually has a plastic zipper on it, so I would be a little bit concerned about having that zipper melt under the heat press, and so that platen helps to protect that. Adjust back my pressure a little bit since I changed the platens. And then I can start to line up my Sim Stitch. So again, I went ahead and chose to order this as Any Word Anyway. And if you've ever visited the Stahls.com website, Any Word Anyway is basically a custom text designer that allows you to get text word marks that are very popular for spirit wear or schools, and a variety of methods. And so this would be the Sim Stitch method. I did do this in 2 colors, so I have 2 different prints here, both done in the zebra pattern. And of course that script font helps me to keep everything well connected. Now I am going to make sure to cover this up with a cover sheet again, because I want to make sure that printed pattern effect doesn't transfer to the top of my heat press. And then sublimated twill applies at 300 degrees for 20 seconds. And so this application, again, it's going to be really great for being able to add something unique to your applique offering. Different patterns, different effects. Of course, I immediately see something like a zebra and think about all of the dance schools and spirit teams that I can be calling on with this type of print. So that creates my effect there on the champion dance. Creates a nice background to my hooded sweatshirt. And I'm going to head back over to the table, grab a couple of these other garments with me, and we can kind of recap and talk and show the finishes up a little bit closer, and share some pricing information as well for these. So let me go ahead and just kind of organize these a little bit better. All right, so the first one we looked at was this Huskies design created with Sim Stitch. And so this product here, again, is going to give me that laser etched type of etching in the garment that looks almost as if it's got embroidery threads and sewing throughout it. And so it really does create what looks like an applique print, but it creates it without having to worry about having all of the time of the embroidery machine or the cost of an embroidery machine if you haven't purchased one yet. I can easily add tails or different word marks to this to kind of jazz it up and change it up a little bit. And so the pricing for something like this, if you're ordering 6 pieces, you'd be looking at about $5 for a standard one color design. If I was up at 12 pieces, which would be at least a standard for a school order, I would imagine, and that would be about $4.75. So that helps to give you some ideas of what the cost of this transfer would cost you. Of course, you have your labor time in there as well that you would want to consider. The next one we looked at was a pre-sewn letters. I'm going to grab that there. And so the pre-sewn letters were the 2-color letters, and these are purchased either in packs or in a full kit if you were doing customization for different names and you wanted to easily do that. With this method, if I was just ordering 6 letters of each one, because you have to order in packs of 6, I'd be looking at about 65 cents each for each of these letters, and then a total of $1.95 for the lettering on this bag here. The other item that we looked at for schools was the Permatwill product. And so Permatwill that we're looking at here is going to be that full color effect. So you're seeing how I'm getting a full color patterned print and able to really customize unique effects with this twill. So it creates a pattern and a print that looks very similar and feels very similar almost to a patch, which is very popular for varsity printing and school printing. And something like this would be priced as square inch pricing. And so when I price this type of item, I'm going to be pricing it by the size of my design. So I have about a 4x4 here and my Husky Pride logo. It's about 22 cents a square inch for the whole entire design. So my total cost brings me in at about $3.52 for this one. But of course the size of your graphic is going to vary, or the cost will vary depending on your size of graphic. I tend to go towards something like this that's going to be smaller, not only for the cost, but for the weight of it as well, especially if you're going on a more lightweight item. You don't want a heavy design done in this twill product. And so obviously something smaller tends to be a little bit better for these types of applications. Looking at a similar product, we did look at the textured twill, which was another printed option for businesses. And so this product here is going to be a kind of gives you a textured, printed, raised effect. And so the neat thing about this product is it almost looks more high-end, like it's a direct embroidery, and you can kind of see how I'm getting very, very fine detail below the Quality Goods logo, a lot of different prints and colors throughout here. So it really just creates a unique application for logoing and being able to create a different effect that's not been able to be done in the past. Like I said, that low temperature application really even makes it ideal for, in the thinness really of this applique product, make it ideal for even some of the more lightweight quarter zips that we're seeing popular in the market today. This one again is priced by the square inch, same thing that we saw with Permatwill. So you're looking a 4x4 like I have here, priced at 22 cents per square inch. So the total for this one would be $3.52 for this heat transfer design. Now, Cat Flock I briefly mentioned earlier today and talked a little bit about that product. Cat Flock prices at about 2 cents a square inch. You're kind of seeing how it has that raised textured effect on the item. And at 2 cents a square inch, this specific design would cost us just in over about 32 to 35 cents in material for a 4x4 left chest logo. We also looked at some numbering on jerseys for the lettering and numbering. Lettering and numbering comes a little bit differently. And so what I wanted to mention, I think I briefly did earlier, was that you could purchase them either in packs for the letters and numbers you need, or you could purchase them in kits that include the full variety of the alphabet and the letter selection that you can choose. If you're going to go this route, if you're going to go that route and kind of looking for names and numbers this way, then you're going to price them mostly by the piece. Of course, the more you order, the kits are going to be less expensive, so keep that in mind. And then we're looking here, let's see if I can find my cheat sheet. For this design, we're looking at about 2-inch letters. Each of these is going to bring us in about 34 cents each, so $1.70 in the 5 letters that I have in the top of the Smith name. And then a 10-inch number done in SimStitch is going to be $1.62 each. So since I have two of them, I brought us in at $3.24. Again, you're seeing on this SimStitch product kind of how it has that laser etching look that really simulates in an applique, but as you saw, it was just applied with the heat press. And so that's what makes this product really so popular for businesses that want to do applique, but don't have the capacity to offer embroidery, or don't want to bring that in-house, or may not want to tie up their embroidery machine's time with some of these jobs if they have other things coming in where maybe they're doing direct embroidery or other jobs there. And so that makes a great application. And then the final one we looked at was actually just another SimStitch product. So again, has that laser etched permanent tool product and has a printed pattern into it. We chose to go with a zebra pattern for this print. This has two different word marks, and so when you price something like this out, I did order them together, but they would be priced separately. And so the large champion part here would be considered a standard any word, any way SimStitch, sublimated SimStitch. And so that one is going to bring me in at 6 pieces. I'm looking at $6.34 for this part. The small dance underneath would bring me in at about $4.37. So the total, if I only needed 6 of these, is going to be $10.71. Now, if I need 12 of them, my cost will drop significantly. 12, the champion is going to be $4.57. And the small dance part would be $3.14. So I'd only be at about $7.71. So I would definitely recommend starting with 12. Of course, if you're selling to a spirit wear group or a dance school like this, shouldn't have any problem finding 12 girls at that school that you could certainly sell to and print for. And so that makes a great application. And there's other price breaks as you increase your order quantity, such as 48. So you can easily hit those with a lot of these schools as well. Overall, there's a lot of great opportunities to take your business and really make it successful with just the heat press using applique products like we've seen here, the SimStitch, the PermaTwill, the Texture Twill, all of that really creates some unique opportunities. If I had any questions come in throughout the class, you may notice on the right-hand side of your screen that's a question bar. So if you had any throughout that you were wondering, feel free to chat those in now. How about I got Joe?
Yeah, the question is on the jersey, is it possible to do that as a 2-color twill?
Absolutely. And so each of these SimStitch applications can be done in 2-color. And so to do that, you would just price them, of course, additionally, because you want to consider that as 2-color. And then the heat application is going to be a little bit longer as well, but you can heat apply them together. So I could line up, let's say, my gold layer with a white over top and press them all at once. I'm just going to be heat printing them for a longer dwell time so that the heat has time to go through both layers.
And then the only other question is they're wondering if there are any kind of sample packs of like your SimStitch or your Texture Twills.
Yeah, there's sample packs available at Stahls.com. So if you go to the Stahls.com website, up in the top-hand bar under Help and Education, you should be able to find the samples toolbar. And so there's plenty of samples available for products like the CAD Prints PermaTwill, Texture Twill, SimStitch, and if you, at the end of the class, there will be a survey. If you want to chat in your information there, we can have a sales rep contact you to send you out some samples as well. So we'd be happy to do that. Always great to get these in your shop as well to feel them and try them, so feel free to get those samples there. All right, looks like we got all the questions. I appreciate all of you coming on and joining me today. Hopefully you found some new ways to use your heat press and be able to dive into the applique market. Thanks for joining.